Welcome back, everybody. Well, approaching the cannabis conversation with kids can feel pretty daunting.
Indeed. Cannabis, of course, now legal across Canada, and it's more important than ever for parents to know how to talk with their kids about the substance and its effects. Joining us this morning is James Mackillop. He is the director of the Peter Boris Centre for Addiction Research at McMaster, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Great to be here.
I know you have two little ones.
I do.
Wee ones, 2 and 6 years old, so perhaps that's too young to start the combo, but you say, what age is the right age to have the cannabis conversation?
I think you really have to think about when your kids are going to be aware of it. And that can be, in at least the early teens, maybe even a little bit younger. Mm-hmm. You want to be having the conversation before they're hearing a lot from their friends, from the schoolyard, or from popular culture, and don't have their questions answered.
And it can also, like my son, we live downtown. He's known about marijuana or cannabis since he was about 5 or 6 because he smelled it. He's asked about it. If they're aware of things, how do you approach? What do you say to them?
Well, I think you want to take it on intentionally. You want to do it to start with, and I think what you want to do is start with what they know. Rather than telling them about cannabis, start by asking about what they've heard already, because it may be with young kids they haven't heard much, but with older kids they may actually be aware of a lot of things, or they may be exposed to misinformation or some of the myths out there about cannabis.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably have to talk about the risks and effects, because I'm sure they're only hearing the plus side in the sense that their peers are only talking about what they think it does in a great way as opposed to the negative effects.
That's exactly right. So what I would emphasize is for parents to really focus on facts and not judgment or the kind of mythology out there, but what do we know about risks? What do we know about medical applications? What is the actual state of the evidence about cannabis?
It sounds like essentially just keep it simple. Right.
I think simple means
don't overthink it.
That's right, and make sure that the message lands, right? So if you overcomplicate it, then it may be that they don't understand all of the information. But make sure you know what your message is, so you can communicate it clearly.
And the big question, of course, Dad, did you try marijuana?
Yeah.
Did you try cannabis?
Yep, that's a big question.
Yes or no? Do you tell the truth?
Well, on balance, I would say in general you want to be honest with your kids. Now, honesty doesn't mean describing every aspect or in every instance in which you might have used cannabis in the past. It's not the time for war stories or trying to be a friend and tell your kid about past cannabis use. And in some ways, there may be some people who have misgivings and don't want to disclose everything. But I think in general, parents should try to use their experiences to help their kids learn about cannabis. And hopefully, well, I think that if they have known people who've had negative experiences or have experienced some of the harms, then describing those stories can be a very powerful way of making those risks really palpable to their kids. Equally, if they're aware of, if they firsthand had some adverse consequences, that's a way to make the message really personally meaningful. So I think that when it comes to personal use, it's all about how your experience can be a learning experience for your child.
Is that changing now, too, with the fact it's legal? The dynamic of it?
I think it will. I think that for a lot of parents, there would be a reflex to say, I wouldn't want to be forthright about this because it was illegal. But I think that the culture will change. Today, with legalization, I think that it will become increasingly accepted, and it will be no different from talking about alcohol. And I think that that's the model you should use. If your kids ask you, did you ever drink alcohol? 95% of Canadians would say yes, and would be able to give a balanced perspective.
And I like that you say approach it calmly, because if you're coming at them really angry, they're never going to talk to you. They're going to hold it all in, and then you lose all control, and conversation is shut down. So it's so important to keep those channels open, and we're going to do that with our Facebook Live. You guys are going to continue chatting. Make sure you take part also on Twitter, hashtag BTPotThoughts, hashtag Marijuana Files. Keep your questions coming, and join you both right now on Facebook.
Just about 2 minutes as we get it set up. For now, let's go over to Tammy. Tammy.